All right, here we are. Saturday, and this is it's a big one. It's a big one. In fact, wasn't actually planning on this one this week. In fact, I can be honest with you guys. We were set to focus on this right here. Fighting systemic racism, building wealth while black, building wealth while being black, and the Cesar Chavez controversy came up, and really felt moved to dig in a little bit about it. Sexual abuse allegations against former iconic leader of the United Farm Workers, Cesar Chavez. And so a lot has transpired over the last couple of days, removing the name, covering up the name, changing discussion on changing the names of schools, community centers, things of that nature, based upon recent allegations of past ill behavior on the part of Cesar Chavez. We've been here before. Weinstein, Cosby, we've been here before. R. Kelly, Diddy. It's not like we haven't been here before. And so as we discuss this, let's get real. Let's get real about it. Let's be real about it, and not hold back a lot. But let's be real about it and understand that this is something that's going on right now, right? That we're talking about. And as we talk about it, what's next? Right? What's next? What's bound to happen next? What's bound to be the next thing to come up in this rush to cancel people? and I think that it's not that there's a hatred for Cesar Chavez. I think there's simply because of what those allegations mean in the light of what we know today. If we can say it like that. If people can take it like that. Let me say it like this. There's a reason I don't run for political office. There's a reason I don't do that. Not that I couldn't handle it, but I know, and a lot of people that have listened to me preach and teach the Bible know that I wasn't always a Christian, and I wasn't always a community-oriented person in the sense of positively building community. And so for me, I know from everything I know is that I spent so much time tearing down community that I needed to spend another part of my life rebuilding community. And that's where I put a lot of my focus into work with Opportunity with Freedom School and other projects that have been led to community rebuilding and community engagement and development rather than gang use, drugs, and all that other stuff. God bless. And so shifting from that to being a politician, you're not going to do me like Marion Barry. You're not going to do my family and take them through all that. I'm fine where I am. And so some people, they strive for the spotlight. They strive to be in the limelight, in the leadership role in that context. And they want that at all costs, whatever. But it does cost you. And so as you move, how you move dictates what happens to you a lot. And sadly, um, a lot of what we're seeing with Cesar Chavez recently is not what many of us grew up with, to understand, as far as I understand it. You know, he was the guy who hunger strikes and making a point of utilizing nonviolent protests and demonstration to get things changed in order to put the spotlight on the greedy power brokers, and now casts a different light. And so the question isn't just about, you know, upholding the legacy of a Cesar Chavez or even an MLK, right? We've regulated him to just initials. We don't even say his whole name, right? Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Right? We forget that. So these are just community leaders that can be struck down, torn down, names taken off of schools, off of streets, hospitals, community centers, whatever. What's next? What's next? What could be next? Well, let's talk about it. Could it be that the controversy and lack of political correctness could get people trying to not use Christ, Jesus? Wasn't Jesus kind of controversial? Right? Politically correct? No, not at all. I wore it today. My I Kill Jesus shirt, right? Right? Because the sin did it. And it's because of the sinners. And we're guilty. We're guilty of killing Jesus. Right? And so when we think about it, Jesus was the ultimate in counterculture and radicalism and revolutionary thought for his time. Right? You may have heard it said, but I tell you. You may have read it, but I say to you, countercultural. The Jewish community that Jesus came into and grew up under was under attack by the Galilean ministry and demonstration of love and life that Jesus demonstrated throughout his ministry. Counterculture. That's it. The Samaritan woman who was asking Jesus for a little bit of help for her and the children. He said, you know, am I to take from the children? And, you know, he equated the woman to being a dog. And Christians, question that, like, oh, I have a book on the hard sayings of Jesus. And people have constantly questioned some of the things that Jesus said in the Gospels that really threw them off, per se, right? And I get it, but this is not a Chinese takeout menu. We don't get to pick and choose the aspects of Jesus that we like. We don't get to pick and choose the aspects of people that we like. And in fact, I'll read you the last two verses of the Gospel of John so you get a glimpse of what I'm saying, that just going by what we have, right? Just going by what we have of the preaching and teaching of Jesus, John 21, verses 24 and 25 say this. This is 24. We'll put it right here just so you can get a glimpse of it. This is John, chapter 21, verse 24. This is the ESV, the English Standard Version. And it says it like this. Here we go. This is the disciple who is bearing witness about these things. John talking about himself. Who has written these things? John speaking of himself. And we know that his testimony is true. John affirming himself, right? So John has broken down, hey, this is all what you've read is me attesting to the truth of the matter of what I witnessed. We say this because John wrote the last gospel account of Jesus, and so he's not matching it up with anyone else. He's saying, this is, my version is true. I was there, I saw it, I witnessed it firsthand, right? And that's important because the other three gospels are known as the synoptic gospels because they match up, they share some of the same stories, they overlap in some cases, even though they're written to different audiences with different perspectives, right? And so John follows everything up with, yeah, you heard all those other ones, but this one is my account, okay? And so John affirms himself in that manner. And then here, boom. Now there are also many other things that Jesus did. I wrote it, I witnessed it, but I didn't put it all down, right? Were every one of them, all the things that Jesus did, to be written, I suppose that the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. Make sense? So here we go. If we're gonna say everything's up for grabs, if we're gonna say everything's up for grabs, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen in circles of clergy. And I put it this way: maybe not your church, maybe not your denomination, but there's enough loosely hanging people to infiltrate and come in and say, hey, this isn't right. This Jesus thing isn't right. Look at him. Right? Hey, look at him. Look what he did. Look how he did it. That's not politically correct. We shouldn't talk to people like that. Right? Come on. Jesus didn't just heal people, right? What did he do to the blind man? He took some dirt, he spit in the dirt, and rubbed it in his eyes, right? What did he do to the man who was sitting by the pool? He questioned him, hey, do you want to be made well? Right? Now we'd have somebody advocating, well, you can't talk to someone who's disabled like that. No. Do you want to be made whole? Is that your desire? Do you want to be fixed? And if we're not careful, right, church folks, if we're not careful, Christians, if we're not careful, we will see the spiritual infiltration of the church, the doctrine, the belief system, and it will separate the identity of Christ from the believer. Get it? It will make the personality and identity of Christ separate from the believer, which then isn't the intent of God among us. It isn't the intent of Jesus coming in the flesh and coming to his own and his own receiving him not. It isn't the intent of Jesus being a man of sorrow, the Son of Man. Because when we start to remove that personality, when we start to remove that identity, then how can we be at one with Christ? How can we have the mind of Christ? How can we share the spirit of Christ? When we begin to remove that and not be on guard against that attack, right? If there's no other name above that name, then we're in danger of the attack on the name. What happened when Peter and John healed that man outside of church the other day when they were just going to pray? What happened? He got up. Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have in the name of Jesus, get up and walk. He got up and walked at the beautiful gate. He was hopping around. People who were on their way to church stopped and looked. People weren't making it to prayer meeting, and there was a disruption, right? There was a disruption, and based upon that, these guys were detained. They were brought in, and the council said, "Man, what do we do with these guys?" And they didn't do what they wanted to do to them because of Gamaliel, the teacher of Paul. They didn't do what they wanted to do with them, and so he told them, "Hey, if you fool around and this is of God, you'll be fighting God. You'll find yourselves fighting God." And so what they did was they touched them up, tuned them up, and then told them, just don't preach in that name anymore. If the name and the identity aren't important, why would they say that? And that's what I'm saying. The name and identity of Jesus Christ is important because that's the mark of the new covenant between the believer and God. That's the mark of the grace and love and forgiveness of all sin that we have through the work of the cross with Jesus defeating the grave and death. And with that, that's how we identify as Christians. Christian was not an acceptable term before. They were the people of the way, but Christian became an acceptable term because it was a derogatory term, because they were called Christians because they were considered little Christs. Running around, these little Christs are running around because all of a sudden they're saved. And so we picked up that derogatory term and brought it in close to our hearts and embraced it, and we became Christians because we became more like him. And that's our desire, to be more like him. Follow me as I follow the example of Christ. You should have the mind of Christ. You should think and act like Christ. Philippians 2 and 5. Like Christ, we should be more like him. Andrew Murray says it best: as he was, so we are to be. As he was, so we are to be. What if that is on target for cancellation? I don't know. Somebody might give in. Somebody might quit. Somebody may just say they're a highly religious person who identifies with the Father, but not the Son. And that would be a win for cancel culture and a loss for the faith. I don't know. This is big. The rush to remove things with the name of Cesar Chavez. This is big. This is big. And I'm just saying, we're in such a rush. We're in such a place to be on the right side of it that can we get things wrong by being in such a rush? And in the future, will we continue to honor people with statues and buildings named after them and programs named after them? Or will we find another way, just in case we find out they're just as human as us and they've got some faults and failures in their life, just like the rest of us? We got some thinking to do. We got some things to work out. But God bless. We've got today. We've got today to think about it and work it out. But I will say this. This will continue to be an issue for us until we decide what is and what is not non-negotiable. Otherwise, we're moving with every wind of the current trends. And here it is, hitting home. Hey, y'all. It's been a blessed week. Get ready. We're going to continue to have a day off, but we don't know. Was it Farm Workers Day instead of Cesar Chavez Day? Whatever it is, let's be safe. Let's be conscious. Let's always be aware. God is still with us. Keep your faith strong. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears attuned to what's going on around you. And most of all, keep your spirits lifted. Be inspired. Be ready to do something great. Bless you.